Welcome to Eclectics this morning. We have the privilege of a speaker, Dr. Cynthia Gautreaux. Is that pronounced correctly, Cynthia? Thank you. Cynthia Gautreaux joined the Cal State Fullerton faculty of the Department of Elementary and Bilingual Education after earning her Doctor of Education in Curriculum and Instruction in 2005. Her experience includes teaching at the elementary level, technology consulting in higher education, and graduate instruction at Cal Poly Pomona and Claremont Graduate University. She teaches in the College of Education and is the director of the Master of Science in Instructional Design and Technology program. This is a fully online master's program focusing on designing online instruction. She is also the director of the Center for Creativity and Critical Thinking. The center focuses on providing technology-related professional development to practicing teachers who focus on emerging technologies such as augmented reality and virtual reality. Please welcome Dr. Cynthia Gautreaux. Cynthia?
Hi, hello. Thank you for inviting me to join you today. I'm happy to talk about technology and specifically online teaching. I would appreciate it if in the chat window, do you have it? Yeah, chat window. If you have any burning questions or anything you'd like me to specifically address, if you'd like to go ahead and write that in the chat window, and then towards the end of my presentation, I'll revisit those questions. So I have a presentation today, and the first thing I'm going to, the title is 10 Tips for Online Course Development. And I had the chance to talk to Janice a little bit, and she said primarily most of the people in attendance today are already teaching online, and that you were looking for some new strategies or some more insight about teaching online. So hopefully this will provide you with what you're seeking. So there's different strategies for teaching online and different methodologies. And one of the more traditional ones is referred to as the ADDIE method. And it's pretty simple. Analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate are all the stages within the ADDIE method. And I'll go through each stage. So the first one is analyze. So of course, when you teach, you want to analyze the needs of your target audience. Who is attending your workshop or your training or your course? What are their needs? What type of resources do they have available to them? Are there any support materials that would be beneficial to them? And then along with this, you also want to analyze the type of learning objectives you'll include in your training based on the needs of your target audience. So in all, you're doing a task analysis and looking at all the different elements associated with the course or the workshop. That's pretty basic. Then the next area you look at is design. So now that you know a little bit about your target audience, how will you apply the needs of the needs assessment in order to design the goals and the objectives? So as you're designing the goals and objectives and what you're going to teach, you also want to consider the assessment options, because that should be included as part of the design strategy. So the 4 areas listed here in the bullet points, you want to make sure that you're writing learning objectives that are measurable. You want to ensure that the various instructional strategies that you're using to teach are identified. And you want to vary the instructional strategies too to create interest and different learning opportunities. In the design process, also, you'll take some time to identify the various resources available to you. And then, of course, you'll plan the instruction. So that's just the basic of the design. The development is exactly what it states. You're actually going to spend some time looking at all the materials that you've gathered and do a storyboard and really develop what you're going to create. So if you're creating an entire course, you would use the course syllabus along with the developmental material that you've compiled in order to develop the entire course. And I'll show you examples of a course that I've created to give you an idea of the development phase and how that really is sequential and well organized, especially when you're teaching online. So then the next phase in the ADDIE method is implementation. So you'll actually take everything you've created and you'll go ahead and teach the workshop or teach the course. If possible, it's a good idea to get feedback from others before you actually teach the class. If that's not possible, then what you can do is as you implement the course, you can gather feedback and comments from students and then revise as you're teaching the course, or gather the comments and collect all that data so that the next time you teach the course, you're able to revise it and better implement the course. Okay, so then the next phase would be evaluation. And if you're actually teaching a live class, there's different strategies to evaluate. You can survey the students, you can get feedback from the students, and you can make sure that you're asking very specific questions so that the feedback that you receive is genuine. If it is a live course and there are grades associated with the course, it's best to ask anonymous, it's best to post anonymous surveys so that the students are able to give genuine and honest answers that won't impact their grades. So it is something that as a presenter or as an instructor, you really want to take in consideration what's happening in the course, because to you it may be one-sided in a well-developed course, but to the user, there may be parts missing or components lacking that you may want to improve upon for the next time. So that's just a quick summary of the ADDIE method. Hopefully that kind of helped to put things into perspective. And so now the 10 tips that I'm going to present are all built on the ADDIE method. So our first one is regarding the course syllabus. So if you're teaching an entire course, then of course you have a syllabus associated with it. But if you're teaching a workshop, then for your workshop, you likely have an agenda. You want to use that as a guide for how you're developing your instruction. So I like to think of the course syllabus as an agenda. As a roadmap. So you've taken the time to create this syllabus or agenda, and you've identified the learning goals and the objectives, and you've really spent a lot of time in the development stage so that when you go to design, you can really use that as your roadmap so that you meet all of the criteria and all of the objectives that you've listed in the course syllabus, so that when it comes time for the assessment components, the learners have all the information that they need in order to be successful at in the assessment piece. So with regard to course syllabus, if you are looking for a good model for the course syllabus, I found this wonderful document from the Monterey Peninsula College, and it is a template. And let's see if I can get the link to open. There we go. What they've done is they've created a very robust template and they've posted it onto Google Drive. So you can go in and download the entire thing and then modify it as needed. So it's an open source document and they allow you to make any modifications and reuse. It's really well done. I've looked through it several times, and if you're teaching a course and you just need some guidelines, then this would be a great way to start. Okay, so now we're leaving the course syllabus behind and we're looking at the feedback from feedback and faculty presence, which is an enormous part of teaching online. So you can't just create the content and leave it up there and leave your students alone, because it's not that kind of a class. You need to be engaged and interactive and have faculty presence. So you can do this several different ways. So the first way you might want to consider is individual feedback. So depending on the size of your course and depending on how many sections you're teaching, you may not have time to call every student and talk to them by phone. But you could send an email. So you could email the students, welcome them to the class. You could post responses to the discussion board forum so that the students know that you're reading what they're posting, you're making comments about it, and you're engaged. I have a little note here on my PowerPoint slide about the best professor who I ever had. Her name is Dr. Evans. She was a professor at Azusa Pacific, and the night before my very first doctorate class, she called me. And I was so nervous, as you can imagine, and wondering what I had got myself into. But I received this phone call from Dr. Evans, and she just put my mind at ease. She just wanted to say hello and make sure I knew where the class was meeting. And what a blessing it was to have her call me, because then I thought, okay, maybe I'm in the right place. I have someone who already knows my name and who cares about me. So sometimes that's just a great way to connect with your participants and your students. Another thing you could consider is trying to make it a little bit more personal, and you could include photos of faculty and students and give students an opportunity to share a little bit about themselves. So I have a link here to the Adobe Spark page. So this is done in Adobe Spark. It's very simple and easy to use. It allows you to add images and text. And so what I did was I created this based on students who were enrolled in my class. That year, we happened to have a lot of international students. So we had a student in Scotland, and she shared a little bit about her story. We had a student, Heather, who was in China. And I asked them to send photographs with some cultural elements to where they were learning from. And then we had Samuel, who was in Tokyo at the time. And then we had one other student, Pam, who was in Hong Kong. So this kind of just gives you a little bit of more insight about the student. Instead of just a text-based response, you actually get to know the student a little. So that would be feedback from students or feedback to students. And on the next slide, we have group feedback. So group feedback could be something that you send like an email blast once a week to the students who are enrolled in the class. It could be a weekly announcement. It could be, if you're using the Remind app, it would be a text that goes directly to their phone, and then they get a little reminder from you. You can use Zoom meetings, like everyone knows about Zoom meetings now, and you could hold office hours. These are just different ways to interact with your students and to connect with them synchronously or asynchronously. All right, and the next slide is group feedback. So I posted an example here about group feedback. So it's one thing if you just identify the content that you're teaching or what the upcoming module is about. But it's another thing if you take a moment and you quote one of your students, maybe from the discussion board forum, and if you mention them by name, and then you mention a couple other students, because when the students are reading the announcements and they see their name, they kind of go, what is that? Why is my name there? And then they read it a little bit more thoughtfully and carefully. And then they realize, oh, my instructor really is engaging in this class, really is reading what I'm posting, and then actually takes the time to repost it. So it really adds a different personal touch to what you're doing in the class.
This is Janice again. There are a few questions on chat. Would you like to entertain them now?
I would, yes.
Okay. From Joyce Ono, she asks, can you differentiate between goals and objectives for a course?
Oh, sure. So goals, so a course goal would be the overarching goal of what you hope to accomplish. Let's say improve mathematics skills related to trigonometry. That would be the goal. And then the learning objectives are those little steps that you take to achieve the goal.
And then from Richard McCammon, how would you modify the ADDIE approach for 70 to 90-year-olds who are diverse in abilities, not signed up for a degree or interested in a grade?
So for the ADDIE approach, it would be the same, because the ADDIE is more related to what you're designing. That's the design process. And you design with the intent of meeting the target audience's needs. So in the ADDIE phase, when I talked about analyzing, you would analyze the needs of your target audience. What is it they need from you as an instructor? Maybe you need sequence to be more direct. Maybe you need more checks within the content that you're presenting. It all really depends on the needs of the target audience. So the ADDIE method wouldn't necessarily be modified. You would still go through all the steps, but the time that you spend getting to know your target audience and what their needs are, that's where the modifications would happen, as well as the different instructional strategies that you add to your content in order to meet their needs. Any other questions?
Not at the moment, so we can.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's say for actually to build on that question, when I mentioned the example I gave was of the course, and in the weekly announcement, I mentioned that you should mention the names of the participants. Well, you can do the same thing if it's not grade driven or academic driven, right? You can still mention the name of the people who participated, maybe something they contributed to the overall course. And this just shows that you're in tune with the needs of your students and the participants, to show that that what they do is valued and important. Okay, so I'm going to move on to organization. So when I teach a course, I organize it by modules, and I try to be as organized as possible. And because it's an online course, it's less forgiving than a face-to-face course. So in a face-to-face course, if you say something and you misstep, then you could easily say, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant, and just kind of do a quick redo. Or you could read the faces of the students in front of you and realize, okay, they're confused. Let me take a step back and re-explain that. Unfortunately, in an online class, you don't have that luxury. So that's where the design process really comes into play. You want to ensure that each module that you create is done very systematically, that you're providing sufficient details so that everything is clear and concise to your students. Make sure that when you create a module, if it is geared towards a specific learning objective, identify that learning objective, and use a standard design that's easy to follow. And when appropriate, try to use different types of digital media to support what you're teaching. If a course is just entirely text-based, it gets very tedious and very dry quickly. So you want to try to embed different types of digital elements, such as audio, video, supplemental materials, different types of engagement strategies. I have an example on the next page. So this is my course, a screenshot of my course from Moodle. And I have a module here. This happens to be module D. You can see this module runs 2 weeks. It runs week 6 and 7, and I've listed the dates there. I give them a little bit of information about what's going to be taught during each week, and then a reminder in red here to let them know that we have a live webinar meeting. It's not mandatory that they attend because I'm recording it, and I'm recording it and making it available later. You can see I have a link to my office hours, and I have that posted throughout. Each module has a link to the office hours because that's important, and I don't want students to need to hunt for it. They have an assignment due, annotated bibliography. This is where they will submit it. And then this, where the arrow is pointing, I use something called digital books in my class. And on the next slide, I've captured a screenshot of what this looks like, which is, looks like this. So you can see over here on the left-hand side, if you imagine this is a book, this is the page of the book, where the first page, and this is where I list what we're doing that week, and then the assignments. And over here on the right-hand side of the screen, I've highlighted here in yellow, that's assignments, and this is the page you're looking at. So that under the table of contents, the next page will be here, page 2, and I have a screenshot of that. It looks like this. So now you can see I've highlighted here, page 2. This is again a continuation of what they saw previously, what we're doing this week. And then we're looking at metaphorical expression. And this is actually a video, and that's a tiny picture of me. And on the next slide, I have this blown up. So here's my video. And this is a short video of me up here. And what I'm doing is I'm walking them through this article, and I'm highlighting various content as I discuss the highlights of the article as it's related to the course content. So it's not just, my course is not just all text-based. It has some variety in it, but at the same time, it's sequential, so the students know what to expect. Even though the content changes, the way it's set up and how they access the course is similar throughout. So this is page 3 of this digital book. And here we're looking at inductive learning and deductive learning. And again, there's another video here. And when I go to the next slide, this is the video larger, just to give you an idea of how the course is set up. So you don't have to use digital books or anything like that, but I do suggest when you go to create it, everything is sequential. So this is module D, and of course there's module E and F and so forth. But the way each module is set up is pretty similar. I do use the digital books throughout each module, but everything, the content changes. Okay, so that was just a peek inside one of my courses. The next content so that would be related to the design element of ADDIE. Are there any questions related to that? And Joyce wanted to know what I'm using to create the videos. So I've used all sorts of things to create videos, and the best thing I found is Zoom. And Zoom as a recording, what happens is after you make your recording, it will automatically package it up for you, and it's nice and neat, and it's very small. The file size is very small, so therefore it's easy to upload to other places. Or alternatively, you could upload it to YouTube, share it in a private channel, and then post the link on your site. But for me, the easiest thing is Zoom, and then it's freely accessible to us. So checking in with the participants or the students. So what I do is, and you probably do something similar, is the first discussion board. I want to know a little bit more about my students on a personal level. I ask them why are they in their class, who are they, what are their learning styles, what are their interests. They can respond either as, well, lately I've been giving them all sorts of choices. I say, if you don't have a lot of time, go ahead and just write a quick paragraph and post an image. If you have a little bit more time and you want to try something new, try Adobe Spark. And I showed you Adobe Spark already when I showed you the international student page. So this is, I'll show you one more just to give you an idea of another thing you could do with Adobe Spark. This is my share on Adobe Spark. And what you see here is, anyone want to guess where I'm at? Paris, yeah, I'm in Paris. So I went to Paris finally last year with my husband. And then, so you can see I like to travel. Here is a little bit about me and one of my colleagues, graduation, and that's it. And so just by this, they can get a sense of who I am. And then I share mine, and then I ask my students to create their own Adobe Spark page. And I mean, I could do a whole workshop on Adobe Spark. It's so much fun. I think you would really love it. But it just gives them an opportunity to share a little bit more about themselves, and you could see it visually. It also allows you to post videos. So if you have a favorite rock band or a music video that's posted on YouTube, you can embed that in Adobe Spark as well. So like I mentioned, the first week, I want to get to know them. Then a couple weeks later, I do a survey and find out what's going well in the course. And basically, I ask 3 questions. What's going well in the course? What should be improved in this course? And what am I, as a faculty member, doing that could be improved upon? So, and there are just 3 very broad questions, just to get a sense of how things are going. Most of these students respond positively. Sometimes they'll say things that, oh, I didn't get a grade right away. And then that kind of cues to me like, oh, I graded those. Maybe I missed something. So it gives me an opportunity to kind of go back in and find out what I'm missing. Okay, then again, at the end of the semester, I survey students. What I usually ask them is, what are 2 new things you learned in this course? And then I keep it nice and broad. And I also try to ask them what went well, or what is something I could improve upon. Usually they're very genuine and honest about what they say in the course, about the course, and it really gives them an opportunity to share something. All right, I'm going to move on to assignments. So assignments look different depending on what you're teaching. When I do assignments in my online class, I try to be very specific, give them examples of the assignment, give them a scoring rubric, how it's going to be graded. If it's necessary, I give them a template or a worksheet to follow to create the assignment. But then I also give them some latitude, and I say, if you have a different idea or a different approach to this, let me know what you're thinking. And then as long as you get to the same point, you can have some flexibility with this assignment. And I would say about 10% of students want to do something a little different. And I allow them that grace so that they're a little bit more engaged in what they're creating. If possible, I provide a video or a PowerPoint and explain the assignment, and then I try to connect it to the course goals and the objectives so they can see how purposeful the assignment is and why they're completing it. So this is another screenshot of my class, and I have an entire section devoted to assignments. So even though I do embed them within the course, Moodle allows you to make copies. So this folder right here contains all the information that they need for this specific assignment. And then I can make a copy of it, of the same folder, and place it somewhere else in the course, which makes it easier for students to find things. So all the assignments in the course, I think there's 5 assignments in the course. They're all listed here in sequential order. So I have a folder with all the information they need, and then where they submitted is listed here. The next slide will show this larger. So this is that folder I showed you opened up. I give them some information about the assignment in general, tell them, try to be very specific about it. And then over here, I wrote a little note. All the files for this assignment are in one central location. All the information that they need is here. Over here, I have a blank form. I have an example of a completed form. And then I have a PowerPoint that's associated with the lesson plan critique and evaluation. So like I mentioned, I really try to be very sequential and linear in my class so students can find things. I did create a Google Classroom. Have any of you used Google Classroom? All right, so Google Classroom is free. It is by Google. It's very simple. So what I did was I created a workshop. It was a 1-day workshop for classroom teachers, and it was about augmented reality and different types of apps that they could use in their classroom with their students. So the way Google Classroom is set up, there are these 4 areas. One is a stream, and this is basically where you communicate with the students, like one-way information announcements. Then this next area is the classwork, where what I did was, since I use this as a one-time workshop, I kind of put my agenda here. So you can see on the left here, here's the welcome page, and I have some Google Slides with welcome. Here's an opportunity for them to introduce themselves. Here is a pre-survey. I wanted to know what they already know. And what's nice about this is, since it's a Google feature, you can use all of the Google apps. Like this is Google Forms, and I use it as a survey. And it just kind of sits in there nicely. Then I called this video time, and I showed them a couple of videos related to augmented reality and what we were learning about in the class. I'll just show you. So we recorded this video about an app that they're going to use in the
holding your device over the cube and using the downloaded apps, various images, videos, and text will actually appear. Here are a couple of examples of what you might see.
And it's very easy to set up and use. And then we uploaded it to YouTube and then just added the link. And then these were videos we created ourselves. And then this is the video of something that was already on TED Talk. So I did the numbers here, 1 through 3, 4, 5, because I've already mentioned to you that I like things sequential and easy to follow, which made it easy when then I had a synchronous meeting with all the people who participated in this workshop, and then I could go back and reference it. Oh, remember when you looked at merge cube number 6? And then we go back and easily find that. And then some more apps. So we use this one as references so they can just post links to it. It really is very easy to use. Here are some lesson plan ideas. Since we were teaching teachers, we wanted to give them some more resources. And then we set up a synchronized Zoom session, like I mentioned, where we all kind of got together and debriefed what they worked through in the workshop. This actually, I really like the format for this because people were able to look at the content independently and then work through it. And then when we met face to face, they already had this foundational knowledge, and everything came so much easier to them because they had spent the time up front. When you create a class, they give you a class code right here. And all you have to do is share this class code with whoever you want to give access to the course. And then they are able to access the course, and you can add them as students in the class. And then with regard to your question about Zoom, so I showed you the classwork that I have here. And so what we did was, like I said, we presented the content to them asynchronously. And then we all got together on a Saturday, and I set up this Zoom synchronized session. And that's where we worked through a couple of activities based on what they already knew about augmented reality. So I gave them the Zoom details here, told them what time to log in. There's the link to Zoom. And then it would open up the Zoom class, and then we could go back in and take a look at the Google Classroom, which is, I think, what you're asking. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about, office hours. Office hours, I hold them once a week. I do use Zoom. I make sure the camera is on so that if the students are comfortable using the camera, I'm ready to talk to them. Some students would rather not, and that's fine too. I do encourage them to attend office hours and ask questions, and I send out reminders about office hours. It's just a nice way to get to know students. I find that often the same students attend office hours each week. Another thing with office hours is I like to share specific things about assignments. If I'm getting a lot of questions about a specific assignment, then I say, oh, come by office hours and we'll talk about it and talk things through. And that usually helps a lot. When I showed you the course, I showed you that I do list office hours in each module just for easy access to students. The next thing you want to consider when you're building out your online class is using a variety of strategies. So I already showed you Adobe Spark, and these are just student examples of Adobe Spark, just to give you a little bit more idea of some of the things that students included. I don't think I'm going to go back to that since I've already showed that to you twice, but I'll share the PowerPoint with you, so if you'd like to look at those. since I am teaching adult learners, I do like to give them options and use a variety of strategies. Like I mentioned before, they can write a paragraph, post a photo, they can use Adobe Spark, they can create a video, any of those options rather than just writing a text-based response. I also like to give them an option to try new software programs like Canva. Are any of you familiar with canva.com?
I am.
Okay, great. And it's the simplest and easiest way to create graphics, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if you have maybe an hour or two and you want to just play around with something new, this is the website. It's free. It's canva.com. And I'll show you an example of what my students made. So I taught them about the concept attainment model. And I said, instead of just writing a text response to what the concept attainment model is, what I would like for you to do is go into Canva and create a graphic. So here's one graphic that one of my students made just by using Canva. So then here's another one. So very different. And yet here's another one. So the templates that are available in Canvas are very different. And students can really pick one that they like to use. So here's the same assignment and then 3 different graphics that represent the concept attainment model, which I thought was really a nice way for students to be creative. It helps them to remember what they're writing about. Instead of just the text-based writing, they've got to think a little bit deeply about it and then think about what kind of graphics or images really lend themselves well to this particular idea of the concept attainment model. Another option for students is to use VoiceThread. So have you used VoiceThread in OLLI?
I have not. I wonder if any of our other OLLI members have. I don't see any responses.
Okay, so I could show you VoiceThread. It looks like this. And the nice thing about it is I can post an image here, or I can post a PowerPoint. I can add audio to it, or I could post a video. And what the students will do is you can see the images around it, is students can respond to a question that I've posted here by video. So here's a video. They can text, type something in. They can, let's see if I have another video. They can record audio. It's just makes it, oh, here's Lejeune. So this is a class that I was teaching to internationals. So it just adds a different element. So rather than just typing out their thoughts and ideas, what they do is they record themselves, and the recording features are part of VoiceThread. So it's not like they need to add anything else. They just use the camera on your laptop and you're able to record feedback. So that's what it looks like. It is readily available in titanium, and that could be a whole other workshop. All right, next thing we're looking at are discussion board forums. So discussion board forums, you can use them whole class or small group or both or a combination of both. It does take a bit longer to set up the smaller groups, but it helps students to be more accountable. So if they know that they're one of 20 people in a class, they may not write as much or contribute as much if they know, compared to if they know if they're only one of 3 people in a small group. So it really changes the way they look at the course. I like to use videos in my class. There are all sorts of videos available freely online. I love TED Talks. And you've probably already explored TED Talks many times, I'm sure. Another resource I wanted to share with you was providing supplementary materials for your class. Of course, you should always bring in whatever's pertinent and interesting to really support what you're teaching. You can locate resources online. You can use the university librarian to find resources. You want to find quality resources. So 2 resources that I use all the time are, oh, that's the next slide. One way you could do this is you can ask your students to search for something. So let's say it's the first time you're teaching a class and you don't have a lot of resources available, but you'd really like to build up a repository of resources that you could reference next time. Then you can give your students an assignment and say, for this week's discussion board forum, search online and locate one quality resource related to whatever specific topic you're talking about. And then you want them to post it onto the discussion board forum. And then you, as a faculty member, could go in and review all those resources that the students have already searched for and posted. And then you can save the ones that are relevant to the course. It's one way. I get a lot of my great resources that way. The other thing you can do is you can look at different places like Merlot. Merlot.org is sponsored by the Cal State University system. And you can see there are an abundance of resources available. And they are peer reviewed, so quality resources are posted. The other area where you can look for courses, or content, is open courseware that's available through MIT. So you're probably familiar with open source courseware. And what that is are courses created by faculty member, taught at different universities, and then they're freely available. And what that allows you to do is kind of get a glimpse at what's going on in other courses. And then you can look at their resources and borrow their resources or modify their resources and reuse them for your own purposes. So I just want to spend a minute looking at MIT, this resource database. Here you have the courses. So if you click here, you can go find courses, and then you can look under a particular topic. Yeah, okay, find topic. And then I was looking at math earlier, and let's say calculus. And you can see they have all the courses listed down here. Undergraduate courses, graduate courses, the years that they were posted. So some of them are quite old because they've been sharing for a while, but you might want to look, but math doesn't really change all that much. So let's say something current. Here's one on calculus. And when you view the resource, you can see that it's very well organized. There are video lectures posted, and each one is numbered and sequential, and you can click on it, and what they allow you to do is reuse them in your classes. So if you're interested in equations of lines and planes, this might be interesting to you. You can reuse it in your class, repost it, help your students provide supplementary information. My son is majoring in calculus, and so I always look for things related to what he's interested in. So I'm sure he'd be happy to take a look at some of these calculus videos in his free time. So there is an abundance of courses available. This search feature up here doesn't work so well, but if you go down to the bottom, you can go down here and find topic. So let's say you're interested in fine arts. Maybe you're interested in art history. There isn't anything for art history, but if you look down here, Introduction to Art History, Fall 2018, and it's an undergraduate level course. So you can just click there, go back to the view course, and again, you can see different things from the course. Here's the syllabus. Here's the calendar of everything that's taught. And then what I like are the resources that are available. So let's say I'm also teaching an art history course. So rather than me searching for all of the resources and finding them on my own, I can go to a course like this and I can say like, oh, what do they have here? Okay, so there's Harvard Art Museums and there's an exhibit. So maybe that would be useful to the class I'm teaching. So I could click on that, explore the resource, and then reuse that. So it's just kind of a nice way to locate resources quickly if you're teaching a class. Here's a list of works, and these are probably things that they use in the class as teaching support. Here's a list of relevant readings. And then there's also, this is nice, also a link to buy that actual textbook on Amazon. So it's just a nice way to peek into someone else's class and do a little less legwork of your own, because this is already a course that's fully designed and fully taught. You can even look at the assignments. I've read some of the assignments and it's really sparked my interest and given me some ideas for how I could improve the assignments in my class. So you're never out of ideas if you can take a look at other people's work. Then what's really nice is if you go to this last button here where it says download course materials, then you could click here and you can download everything that's shared in the course. So just one other resource that could be helpful to you.
Okay, do we have any general questions? I see a comment from Bill. Okay, so would you like to ask the question?
Okay. At OLLI, a lot of our courses are kind of a single standalone event. Each week is a standalone event loosely based on a theme. How would ADDIE be used to develop that type of course?
Well, so when you look at ADDIE, what you're really looking at as is the framework. So you're going to analyze the course and the participants, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're going to develop the framework for what you're teaching. Then you're going to design all the content that you're going to teach, bring in all the supplementary materials, and really design the workshop. And then you're going to implement it, right? So you're following the same sequence. It's just on a smaller scale. And then you'll evaluate. So the evaluations really probably would be less formal than in a regular class because, well, what kind of evaluation system do you have now?
We don't have any.
Oh, at the end of the workshops, do you provide some kind of a survey?
No, not at OLLI. It's pretty much just a drop-in type course, or you attend every week. And each week can be standalone for many of the classes. Some classes are traditional based, but most of them are just every week is a standalone topic based on a common theme for the course.
I see. Well, I mean, you might want to think about adding a survey to the end of the workshop. And that would give you an opportunity to get some feedback from the students. You know, it could be something simple. What went well? What would you like to see improved upon? And any suggestions for next week's workshop.
Okay.
And then, you know, as you give those workshops and you look at them cumulatively over time, you can see, oh, there's these patterns and these trends. And maybe we really need to, you know, engage more with our participants to find out what their needs are.
It sounds totally doable. If we have the survey handy, we could, for instance, this session, we could pop it up and ask the participants to take 2 minutes to complete.
Yes, exactly. And you can use Google Forms, or I think that you probably have access to Qualtrics through the university.
I'm not.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you.
Do, right? Mm-hmm. And it's available on the portal.
Okay, Joyce? Oh no.
Yeah, I just made a comment about Google Forms. I think that would be really useful to all the instructors, because at this point we don't have a place where we could put all this material that would be easily accessible to our students. If we do this piecemeal, like many of us do with email, things get lost.
Right.
You know, and some of us have access to the OLLI website, but not everybody does, to put things up in one place where they can have control and access. So
Oh yeah, Google Classroom would be great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a good substitute for, you know, a learning management system that.
Yep, I think it would be. And then what's nice, it'll archive all of your courses. So like, let's say I create a course, Joyce, and then I add you as the instructor. Now both of us have access to it always.
So you can share and collaborate on it. That's great. Yeah, because we have a lot of courses where a lot of people work on it together, and that would be great. Thank you.
Really of course. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you very much for allowing me to come and talk to you today. I think it was fun to meet you and share some resources with you.